You know, 9/11 and its aftermath struck a devastating blow to the nation's airlines. It's changed the way we travel every single day. But leading both Atlanta-based Delta Airlines and 11 other carriers into recovery was Delta's Chairman and Chief Executive Officer Leo Mullin.
And now, in a rare exclusive TV interview with 11 Alive's Bill Liss, Mullin looks back on what those days and weeks were like, starting on the most painful day of September 11th.
9/11 was a catastrophic day that required swift and decisive actions from the nation's airlines.
Center line down to position number 2.
At the forefront, the operations team at Delta Airlines and the carrier's chairman and chief executive, Leo Mullin.
As the second plane hit, and then went into the oh my God type situation. Obviously, we were most concerned that it might be a Delta plane in the first instance. We were able to ascertain within about, I would guess, about 90 minutes that it was not, but it took that long. But then it was immediately recognizable that we had a colossal crisis. And I spent the next 16 hours there as we just tried to deal with the questions and the imponderables that were associated with the crisis.
How long did it take you before you had all of these planes, especially the ones flying over the oceans, that had to be brought down into a safe haven as soon as possible?
Right. Well, the ones in the United States probably were down within, I'd say, 4 to 6 hours. But you are correct. There was a lot of difficulty with respect to the ones that were coming in from overseas. And of course, in the ones coming in from Europe, Delta's planes, as well as those of United and American and a few others who had overseas, were sent into Gander, Newfoundland.
Once Delta had its entire fleet on the ground and its crews and passengers all accounted for, it joined with 11 other United States airlines in dealing with serious financial shortfalls with all aircraft stalled on the ground.
This has been clearly the most difficult.
Mullin says that although Delta had monetary reserves in the bank, the airlines as a whole needed a financial bailout.
A number of airlines couldn't have made it without the Washington help.
The 11 CEOs all determined pretty quickly that the one person they needed to represent the industry, not only in just articulating the issues, but going before Congress and articulating the issues. And as I know it, Leo Mullin was vested by all of your colleagues. In fact, some of them even left Washington, so they had to go back to their airlines, and they left you standing there, and you're the one who had to carry the ball for the entire industry, looking for $24 billion.
Well, it was quite shocking. I will tell you, as I look back on it, in that tumult, it was easily the most tumultuous week in Washington in going through this bill that I have gone through in my 55-year business career.
With little time to prepare, Mullin went before Congress, scaling down the request to $15 billion.
I've never, ever been challenged to write something like this. 15-page document to submit to Congress with a request for $15 billion. I mean, and it worked. To this day, I kind of marvel at it myself.
But now facing Mullin was a decision that he called the most painful in his career. He had to cut the Delta staff by 16%.
And today, drastic measures are required if we are to avoid being among the first economic casualties of the war. It was the worst day, in many respects, that I had at Delta to have to do that. I hated to do that, and we did it in as benign a way as we possibly could, but we had to do it. We were in desperate financial straits.
For Leo Mullin, 9/11 and its aftermath will forever be remembered as the most vivid and challenging time in his career. And he says his extraordinary respect for his Delta team during those chaotic days was unlike anything he has ever experienced or will ever experience again.
Wow. And so here's a really interesting side note here. While Mullin was leading his airline through 9/11, his wife was on board a Delta flight in its final approach to LaGuardia Airport in New York as the tragedy was unfolding at the World Trade Center.
Such eerie timing. And her flight immediately was diverted to Allentown, Pennsylvania, where she joined 3 other Delta employees. And in a rented car, they drove 18 hours back to Atlanta. But Mullin says it was 6 hours before he knew where his wife was. So you may recall at that time, cell phone towers were down. It was hard to get in touch with family members.